"You don't belong in this store," shouted the owner. And then she lost everything. Patricia Johnson felt her heart race as the words flew from her mouth like sharp blades. The boutique opulence, her empire built over 30 years in the most upscale neighborhood of New York City, witnessed yet another of her angry outbursts directed at customers she deemed unfit for her establishment. That's when she noticed the phones pointed at her. Several customers had started recording the scene, shocked by how Patricia treated the young black woman holding only a small beige bag. "Did you hear what I said?" Patricia continued, jabbing her finger at Jasmine Washington, a 28-year-old who had entered the store looking for a special gift for her grandmother. "This store isn't for just anyone." Jasmine felt tears burning her eyes but stood her ground. She had grown up hearing stories of discrimination from her grandmother, but never imagined she'd experience something like this in the 21st century. "I just wanted to buy a scarf for my grandmother," Jasmine whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't care who it's for." Patricia raised her voice even louder. "Look around you. See the kind of clientele that frequents this place. You simply don't fit in." The other customers exchanged uneasy glances. Among them was Deborah Miller, a 55-year-old digital influencer who had entered the store incognito to anonymously evaluate the service for her women's fashion channel. Jasmine took a deep breath and gently placed the bag on the nearest counter. Inside was only a light blue silk scarf she had chosen with such care, remembering how her grandmother Margaret had always spoken of dreaming about owning something fine and delicate. "I understand," Jasmine said, maintaining her dignity despite the humiliation. "Have a good day, ma'am." Patricia watched as the young woman walked out of the store with her head held high, and for a brief moment she felt something strange in her chest, but she quickly brushed away any trace of regret, turning back to the remaining customers with a forced smile. "Well, where were we?" she said, trying to regain normalcy. Deborah slipped her phone into her purse, pretending disinterest, but she knew she had explosive material in her hands. She had recorded the entire scene and couldn't believe what she had witnessed. "Actually, I'll be leaving too," Deborah announced, leaving Patricia confused. One by one, the other customers also began exiting the store, some whispering among themselves, others clearly disturbed by what they had seen. Patricia was left alone with her two employees, Susan and Kelly, who had worked there for over 10 years. Both came from humble backgrounds and had always felt the weight of their boss's prejudice, but they needed the job. "What are you staring at?" Patricia snapped. "Get back to work." Susan, a 45-year-old woman, lowered her eyes and continued organizing the clothes on the rack. She had witnessed dozens of scenes like this over the years, but this time, something felt different. Meanwhile, Jasmine walked through the streets of the Upper East Side with tear-filled eyes. She was a neurosurgeon at Memorial Hospital and had saved countless lives, including those of New York City's elite. But at that moment, she felt small and diminished. When she arrived home, a modest apartment in Williamsburg that she shared with her cousin, Jasmine couldn't shake the look of disdain on Patricia's face. "What happened, Jasmine?" asked Monica, her 30-year-old cousin, seeing her walk in with her head down. "Forget it, Mon. Just another normal day being black in the United States," Jasmine replied, trying to downplay it. But Monica knew her cousin well and could tell something serious had happened. After much insistence, Jasmine recounted everything in detail. "You need to do something about this," said Monica, outraged. "You can't just let it slide." "And what do you want me to do? Sue? That'll only bring me more headaches," Jasmine sighed. "I'd rather just drop it." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. While Jasmine tried to forget what had happened, Deborah was at home editing the video she had recorded. As an influencer specializing in behavior and fashion, she knew exactly the impact those images would have. She carefully wrote a caption, contextualizing the situation, without unnecessarily exposing Jasmine, but making the absurdity of the discrimination clear. "Today, I witnessed something that left me speechless. A young black woman was publicly humiliated in a luxury boutique simply because of her skin color. This is unacceptable in 2024. The video was posted at 8 in the evening, and within minutes it began being shared massively. Comments multiplied rapidly, most expressing outrage and anger. Patricia was at home, a luxurious apartment on Fifth Avenue, when her phone started ringing incessantly. It was Richard, her 62-year-old husband and silent partner in the store. "Patricia, have you seen what's happening online?" he asked, his voice tense. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, annoyed at the interruption. "A video of you mistreating a customer is going viral. It already has over 100,000 views." Patricia felt her blood run cold. She rushed to her computer and within minutes found the video. She watched in horror as her own image screamed at Jasmine. "This is outrageous," she exclaimed. "That woman had no right to film me." "Patricia, this is chaos," Richard said. "The store phone won't stop ringing. It's journalists, customers cancelling orders. You need to do something." But Patricia was far from grasping the severity of the situation. In her mind, she had simply upheld her store's standards. "I'll call my lawyer," she said. "We'll sue that influencer for defamation." By the next morning, the situation had turned into a full-blown nightmare. The video had already surpassed 2 million views and had been shared by numerous high-profile accounts. Patricia arrived at the store to find a small group of protesters outside, holding signs calling for a boycott. Inside, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. "Miss Patricia," said Susan, visibly nervous, "you need to see this." She showed an extensive list of clients who had called to cancel orders and return products. Some of the boutique's biggest customers were on it. "This is temporary," Patricia said, trying to stay calm. "Everything will go back to normal soon." But things only got worse as the day went on. Journalists showed up at the store's doorstep. Suppliers began calling to question their partnership, and several influencers posted videos criticizing Patricia's behavior. Then, Patricia received a call that shook her to her core. It was Catherine, her only daughter, 35 years old, who had lived in London for 15 years. "Mom, I saw the video," Catherine said, her voice cold. "I can't believe you did that." "Catherine, sweetheart, you don't understand the situation." That girl what, Mom?" Catherine interrupted. "Was she black? Is that a reason to humiliate someone in public?" "It's not that, honey. It's about standards, about class." "Mom, I've worked in diversity and inclusion here in London for years. You know the irony? I teach companies not to do exactly what you did." Patricia felt her world crumbling. Catherine was her only child, her greatest pride, and now she was on the other end of the line, clearly disappointed. "Catherine, you can't judge me like this. You don't know how hard it is to keep a business running. Mom, I need some time to process this. I don't want to talk to you right now." "Catherine, wait." But the call had already ended. Patricia Johnson stared at the phone, feeling an ache in her chest she couldn't explain. Meanwhile, Jasmine Washington was at the hospital doing her morning rounds when she was approached by colleagues who had seen the video. "Jasmine, are you okay?" asked Dr. Michael, head of the neurosurgery department. "I'm fine, doctor. Just a minor setback," she replied, trying to maintain her professionalism. "You know you can count on us for anything, right?" he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Jasmine thanked him, but deep down she was emotionally exhausted. The video had spread so widely that even at work she had become the center of attention. During lunch, she received a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Dr. Washington? This is Deborah Miller, the person who filmed the video yesterday." Jasmine tensed up. She didn't know whether to thank her or complain about the exposure. "Look, I wanted to apologize for filming without your permission," Deborah continued, "but I couldn't let that slide." "I understand," said Jasmine, "but now I've become a national case. I'm not sure that's what I wanted." "Doctor, can I ask you something? Would you like to tell your side of the story?" Respectfully, of course. Jasmine hesitated. Part of her just wanted to forget what had happened, but another part felt she had a responsibility to others going through the same situation. "Let me think about it," she replied. Meanwhile, at the Opulence boutique, the situation continued to deteriorate. Several supplier brands had sent emails announcing contract terminations. Kelly, one of the employees, hesitantly approached Patricia. "Mrs. Johnson, can I talk to you?" "What is it now?" Patricia replied, visibly stressed. "It's just, some of the girls are thinking about quitting." "What do you mean, because of this nonsense?" Kelly took a deep breath. She had swallowed many similar situations over the years, but now she felt she could speak up. "Mrs. Johnson, with all due respect, this isn't nonsense. You've always treated customers this way when you thought they didn't have the means." Patricia looked at Kelly in surprise. It was the first time an employee had directly questioned her behavior. "Are you questioning how I run my business?" "No, ma'am, I'm just saying maybe it's time to rethink some things." "You're fired," Patricia said without hesitation. Kelly didn't seem surprised. In fact, she looked relieved. "That's fine, Mrs. Johnson, I'll get my things." Susan, who had witnessed the conversation, felt a pang in her heart. Kelly was her best friend at work, and now she was being fired for telling the truth. That evening, Patricia arrived home to find Richard in the living room, his expression serious. "We need to talk," he said. "If it's about the store, I already know everything. I'll handle it." "Patricia, you don't understand." He stood up. "This isn't just about the store. It's about who you've become." "What do you mean?" Richard walked to a cabinet and pulled out a folder full of papers. "Do you want to know who I really am, Patricia?" He opened the folder. "For 15 years I've been helping customers you've humiliated." Patricia looked at the papers, confused. "Remember Mrs. Mary, the one you kicked out because you said she smelled like food? I paid for the clothes she wanted to buy for her daughter's wedding." Patricia's legs felt weak. "And young Priscilla, the one you said looked like a maid? I took her to another store and bought her graduation dress." "Richard, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I've been your silent accomplice in these humiliations for years, and I can't take it anymore." Patricia sank heavily onto the couch. It felt like the ground was disappearing beneath her feet. "You can't be serious." "Patricia, have you ever wondered why our daughter never wanted to return to the United States? Why she chose to live on the other side of the world? She always said it was because of work." "It was because of you, Patricia. She couldn't stand your prejudices." Patricia fell silent for long minutes. 30 years of marriage, and she was discovering that her husband fundamentally disagreed with her values. "Why did you never say anything?" "Because you never wanted to listen. Every time I tried to talk, you said I didn't understand business." "And now? What do you want me to do?" "I want you to stop and reflect on the woman you've become." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Patricia woke up to a call from her lawyer. "Patricia, we have a problem," he said. "They've found out who the woman in the video is." "So what?" "She's Dr. Jasmine Washington, a neurosurgeon at Memorial Hospital. She's saved over 300 lives in the last 5 years, including several members of New York City's high society." Patricia felt her blood run cold. The inappropriate girl she had humiliated was one of the most respected doctors in the city. "Does that change anything?" "Patricia, it changes everything. The press is loving the irony. Businesswoman humiliates doctor who saves lives. You've become a symbol of class prejudice." When she arrived at the store, Patricia found only Susan there. The other 2 employees had resigned overnight. "Mrs. Johnson, more cancellations came in," Susan said, handing her an even longer list than the day before. Patricia scanned the names. Many of these women she had known for decades. Some had been clients since the store first opened. The phone rang and Susan answered. "Opulence Boutique, yes, she's—" "One moment, please." "Who is it?" Patricia asked. "It's Dr. Jasmine Washington." Patricia froze. The last person she expected to hear from was the very young woman she had humiliated. With trembling hands, she took the phone. "Hello? Mrs. Johnson, this is Jasmine Washington. What do you want?" "I'd like to speak with you. In person." "Speak about what?" "About what happened, and about some things I've discovered." Patricia hesitated. Part of her wanted to hang up, but something in Jasmine's calm voice intrigued her. "What kind of things?" "I'd rather speak in person." "Could you meet me this afternoon?" "Here at the store?" "If that's possible. At 5 o'clock?" Patricia looked around the nearly empty store and agreed. She didn't know what to expect, but she felt she had little left to lose. At exactly 5 o'clock, Jasmine walked into the boutique. Patricia was alone, having dismissed Susan earlier. The two women looked at each other in silence for a few seconds. Patricia noticed Jasmine wore a simple yet elegant outfit and carried a small leather purse. "Thank you for seeing me," Jasmine said, her voice serene. "I don't know why you want to talk to me. May I sit?" Patricia gestured to a chair near the fitting room. Jasmine sat calmly and glanced around the store. "It's truly a beautiful place," she said. "You can tell it was put together with great care." Patricia hadn't expected compliments and was taken aback. "What do you want from me?" "I want to understand," Jasmine replied. "I want to understand what drives a person to treat another that way. Are you going to sue me?" "No, that's not why I'm here." Patricia grew even more confused. "Then why?" Jasmine took a deep breath and opened her purse, pulling out an old photograph. "Do you recognize this person?" Patricia took the photo and felt her heart race. It was a black and white image of a young woman smiling, wearing a maid's uniform. "This is my grandmother, Margaret Washington," said Jasmine. "She worked as a housekeeper for 40 years in this neighborhood." Patricia kept looking at the photo, not understanding where Jasmine was going with this. "She used to tell me stories about her employers. Some were kind, others not so much. But there was one she always remembered fondly." "Why?" "Because this employer was different. She was young, had just arrived from a small town, and treated my grandmother like a person, not an object." Patricia began to feel a chill down her spine. This employer's name was Patricia Oliveira. Later, she became Patricia Johnson. The world stopped for Patricia. She remembered Margaret perfectly, a kind woman who had worked in her home during her early married years. "Margaret," she whispered. "Yes, my grandmother worked in your home." Patricia felt tears welling up. Margaret had been like a second mother to her when she first arrived in New York City, lost and knowing no one. "She always talked about young Patricia," Jasmine continued. "She said you were different from the other employers, that you talked to her about life, asked about her family. Margaret, how is she?" "She passed away 3 years ago." Patricia felt as if she'd been punched in the gut. "But before she left, she always said she had a dream. She wanted to see your store, to see how you'd prospered." "Why didn't she ever come?" "Because she was afraid she wouldn't be welcome. She said you must have changed a lot, that rich people forget where they came from." Patricia couldn't stop crying. Memories flooded back like an avalanche. Margaret making breakfast, telling stories about her hometown, teaching traditional recipes. "I didn't know," she murmured. "I came to buy a scarf for her, to place on her grave for the 3rd anniversary of her passing. She always said she wanted something beautiful and elegant, like the employers wore." Patricia sobbed harder. The irony was too cruel. She had humiliated the granddaughter of the woman who had shown her the most kindness when she first arrived in the city. "Jasmine, I didn't know who you were." "Would that have changed anything?" Jasmine asked, looking straight into Patricia's eyes. The question echoed in the silence of the store. Patricia knew the honest answer was no. If she'd known who Jasmine was, she might have treated her differently, but she would have kept mistreating others. "No," Patricia admitted, her voice breaking. "It wouldn't have." "Why, Patricia? What happened to that young woman my grandmother knew?" Patricia stayed silent for a long moment, trying to gather her thoughts. "I was so afraid," she said finally. "Afraid of being poor again, afraid of not being accepted, afraid people would find out where I came from." "And where did you come from?" "A family of seamstresses in a small town. My mother took in sewing and always dreamed of having a store. When she died, I promised I'd make her dream come true." "And you did?" "Yes, but along the way I lost myself. The more the store grew, the more I felt I had to maintain an image. And that image included being selective about my clientele." "My grandmother was a seamstress too," Jasmine said softly. "She made her own dresses from scraps the employers gave her." Patricia remembered the simple yet always impeccable dresses Margaret used to wear. "She talked about you a lot to my mother. Said you were special, that you'd go far in life." "And I threw it all away," Patricia said. "Threw away everything that made me human." The two fell silent again. The sun began to set, casting a golden light through the store. "Can I ask you something?" Patricia said. "Of course. Why don't you want to sue me? I deserve it. Jasmine smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. Because my grandmother always said forgiveness frees the one who forgives more than the one who's forgiven. And because I see in your pain a chance for change. Do you think I can change? I think you've already started. Patricia looked around the empty store and felt the weight of 30 years of wrong choices. I don't know where to begin. How about by admitting you were wrong? I was wrong, Patricia said without hesitation. Very wrong. And what do you plan to do about it? Patricia thought for a few minutes. I want to change. I want to honor Margaret's memory and what she saw in me. That won't be easy. Your actions hurt a lot of people. I know. But I have to try. Jasmine stood and extended her hand to Patricia. Then let's try together. Patricia looked at the outstretched hand and after a pause took it. Why would you do this for me? Because that's what my grandmother would have done. She believed in people even when they didn't believe in themselves. At that moment, Patricia felt something she hadn't in years. Hope. In the days that followed, Patricia began working on a kind of redemption plan. Her first step was calling every employee who had quit and apologizing in person. Kelly was the most reluctant to accept. Ms. Johnson, with all due respect, this feels more like desperation than genuine regret. I understand your skepticism, Patricia replied, but I'd like a chance to prove I'm serious. And how do you plan to do that? By making this store what it should have been from the start, a place for everyone. Kelly hesitated. She needed the job but didn't want to return to a toxic workplace. I'll come back, she finally said, but on one condition. What? I want a say in the changes. I won't just be an employee following orders. Agreed, Patricia said, surprising Kelly. Susan, who had listened to the whole conversation, smiled for the first time in days. Jasmine had agreed to help Patricia restructure not just the business, but her perspective on people. They met every evening after Jasmine's shifts at Memorial Hospital. The first step is understanding where your prejudice comes from, Jasmine said during one of their talks. I think it comes from fear, Patricia admitted. Fear of being seen as a fraud. But you're not a fraud. You built all this through hard work. Yes, but I've always felt I didn't deserve to be here. And that's why you put others down? Patricia paused. Jasmine's observation hit home. I suppose so. If I could make others feel inadequate, I'd feel more adequate. That makes psychological sense, but it hurts people in the process. I know, and it hurts me too. I just didn't realize it until now. During one conversation, Patricia mentioned her daughter Catherine. She won't speak to me. She doesn't answer my calls or messages. She's hurt. But if you show real change, she might give you a chance. You think so? Children have an incredible capacity to forgive their parents. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. She'll want proof you've changed. Patricia decided to write Catherine a letter, sharing everything she'd learned and the changes she was making. Dear Catherine, I know you're disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in myself too. I've realized things about my behavior that shame me deeply. But I've also learned it's not too late to change. The letter ran 8 pages. Patricia wrote about Jasmine, about Margaret, about her talks with Richard, and her decision to make the store inclusive. Meanwhile, media coverage continued. TV shows and podcasts discussed the case, often using Patricia as an example of how not to act. She decided it was time to speak publicly. With Jasmine's help, she recorded a sincere apology video, acknowledging her mistakes and explaining the changes she was making. My name is Patricia Johnson, and I need to apologize. The video began. Not just to Dr. Jasmine Washington, but to everyone I've hurt over the years with my prejudices. The video was posted on the boutique's official profile and also shared by Deborah, the influencer who had filmed the original scene. The reaction was mixed. Many people praised Patricia's courage in admitting her mistakes, while others remained skeptical, thinking it was just a marketing strategy. One comment in particular caught Patricia's attention. Words are easy. I want to see actions. She knew the person was right. She needed to prove through her behavior that the change was real. The first concrete step was to overhaul the store's customer service policy. Patricia created a code of conduct that made it clear any form of discrimination would result in immediate termination. "But Mrs. Johnson," Susan asked, "does that include you too?" "Especially me," Patricia replied. "If I ever act prejudiced again, I want you to call me out on it right away." Kelly and Susan exchanged surprised glances. In 10 years of working there, they had never seen Patricia so open to criticism. The second change was in product selection. Patricia began including pieces by Black, Indigenous, and other minority designers, something she had never considered before. "I'm discovering incredible talent," she told Jasmine. "Designers I never noticed because my prejudices blinded me. And how are the customers reacting?" "Some were hesitant at first, but others love it, especially the younger ones." Jasmine smiled. She was watching Patricia discover a world that had always been there, but one she had chosen to ignore. The third change was personal. Patricia decided to start therapy to work on her self-image and prejudice. "It's harder than I imagined," she confessed to Richard, realizing how many of my actions were based on fear. "But you're trying. That's already a big step. Do you forgive me?" Richard looked at her warmly. "Patricia, I never stopped loving you. I was just tired of seeing who you were becoming. And now? Now I'm seeing the woman I fell in love with 30 years ago start to reappear." They embraced, and Patricia felt she was reclaiming not just her marriage, but herself. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 3 weeks after the incident, Patricia received a call that would change everything. "Mom?" It was Catherine. Patricia nearly dropped the phone from sheer emotion. "Catherine, my darling girl, I got your letter, and I saw your video. What did you think?" "I think it's a start, but I want to see it with my own eyes." "Are you coming here?" "I'm at the airport. I'll be there tomorrow." Patricia hung up and cried with joy. Finally, her daughter was coming home. The next day, Catherine arrived at the store with Jasmine, who had offered to mediate their reunion. Mother and daughter stared at each other for long moments before embracing. "I missed you so much," Patricia said. "Me too, Mom. But I needed time to process everything." Catherine looked around the store, noticing the changes in decor and the new products on display. "Tell me about the changes," she said. Patricia explained every adjustment, from the code of conduct to the inclusion of new designers. Catherine listened carefully, asking pointed questions. "And the employees? How did they react?" "With suspicion at first," Patricia admitted. "But now I think they see it serious." "Can I talk to them?" Patricia called Kelly and Susan, who spoke openly with Catherine about the changes. "Mrs. Johnson is still learning," Kelly said. "But the difference is now she wants to learn." "It's true," Susan confirmed. "Before she thought she knew everything. Now she asks for our opinion." Catherine was impressed by the employees' sincerity. That night, mother and daughter had a long, honest conversation in Patricia Johnson's apartment. "Why did you never tell me about your prejudices?" asked Catherine. "Because I didn't think they were prejudices. I thought it was being selective, having standards. But you must have noticed how much it bothered me when I was a teenager." Patricia remembered the arguments they had when Catherine questioned how she treated certain people. "I thought you were too young to understand business matters. Mom, this was never about business. It was about humanity. I know that now." Catherine studied her mother's face, searching for signs of sincerity. "Do you know what hurt me the most?" "What?" "Discovering that you were exactly the kind of person who discriminated against our own family in the past." Patricia didn't understand. "What do you mean?" "Mom, Grandma Eleanor was a seamstress. Grandpa Anthony was a bricklayer. They were exactly the kind of people you didn't think were suitable for your store." The realization hit Patricia like lightning. She had never made that connection. "My God," she whispered. "You spent your whole life trying to escape your roots. But your roots weren't a shame, Mom. They were your strength." Patricia cried again, but this time they were tears of understanding. "How could I have been so blind?" "Because fear blinds, but love can heal." They embraced, and Patricia felt she was getting her daughter back. In the following days, Catherine accompanied Patricia in all the store's activities. She wanted to see firsthand how the process of change was going. One afternoon, an elderly customer walked into the store. She was a woman in her 70s, dressed simply but elegantly. Patricia approached her with a genuine smile. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" "I'm looking for a dress for my granddaughter's wedding," the woman said, slightly hesitant. "How wonderful. We have several options. What's your budget?" The question was asked naturally, without judgment. The woman seemed relieved. "I have up to $1,000 to spend." "Perfect. We have many beautiful pieces in that price range." Patricia showed her several options, always asking about the customer's preferences and the event. Catherine watched everything, amazed by her mother's transformation. After the customer left, satisfied with her purchase, Catherine remarked, "Now you seem like the mum I remember from my childhood." "What do you mean?" "When you first opened the store, you were like this with every customer. Attentive, kind, eager to help." Patricia reflected on this. She remembered the boutique's early years, when she treated every customer like a treasure. "What happened to me?" "You forgot that true success isn't about excluding people, but including them." During her stay, Catherine also got to know Jasmine Washington better and was struck by her generosity. "Why did you decide to help my mother?" she asked during a lunch they had together. "Because my grandmother always said holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal, hoping to hurt someone else. The only one who gets burned is you. But you had every right to be angry." "I did, but I chose a different path." "And if my mother goes back to her old ways?" Jasmine thought for a moment. "I don't think she will, because now she understands where her behavior came from, and those who understand can change." Catherine was moved by Jasmine's wisdom. "Would you like to continue being our diversity consultant? It would be an honor." 2 weeks later, Catherine had to return to London, but with a completely different perspective on her mother. "I'm proud of you," she said at their goodbye. "But most of all, I'm proud to be your daughter again." "You've always been my greatest pride," Patricia replied. "Now I want to be someone who deserves a daughter like you." With Catherine back in London, Patricia Johnson focused on consolidating the changes at the store. Jasmine Washington had suggested she host a reopening event to showcase the transformations to the community. "But do you think people will actually come?" Patricia asked, uncertain. "Some will come out of curiosity, others to give you a second chance. What matters is showing that the change is real." Patricia decided to hold the event on a Saturday afternoon. She invited not only former customers, but also people from the community who had never stepped foot in the store. The day of the event arrived, and Patricia was nervous. What if no one showed up? What if people only came to humiliate her? But to her surprise, the store was packed. People of all ages, colors, and social backgrounds filled the space. Jasmine was there, as was Deborah Miller, the influencer who had filmed the original incident. Several other local figures also attended. Patricia gave an emotional speech, sharing her journey of transformation and thanking Jasmine for being her teacher in the process. "Today isn't just the reopening of a store," she said. "It's the rebirth of a person who had lost her way." The audience applauded, and many approached to congratulate her and explore the new collections. During the event, Patricia noticed an elderly woman standing at the door, hesitant to enter. She walked over and introduced herself. "Good afternoon. I'm Patricia, the owner. Would you like to come in?" The woman looked at her warily. "I saw the video," she said. "I came to see if you've really changed. Please come in. I'd be honored by your visit." The woman entered slowly, taking in her surroundings. Patricia walked with her, explaining the changes and showing her the products. "How much is this scarf?" the woman asked, pointing to a light blue one. $50, Patricia replied. "That's within my budget," the woman said, smiling. "Is it for someone special?" "For myself. I've dreamed of owning a silk scarf for 50 years. Patricia felt her eyes well up. She immediately thought of Margaret and her simple dream of having something fine and delicate. "This scarf is my gift to you," Patricia said. "I can't accept—" "Please take it. It would be an honor." The woman took the scarf with trembling hands and draped it around her neck. "How does it look?" she asked. "Perfect," Patricia answered, tears in her eyes. "Absolutely perfect." In that moment, Patricia understood the true purpose of her store. It wasn't to exclude people. It was to fulfill dreams. Small dreams, big dreams, all equally important. The event was a greater success than Patricia had hoped. Many made purchases, others simply browsed, but everyone left with a positive impression. Deborah filmed a new video, this time highlighting Patricia's transformation and praising her courage to change. "I've followed this journey closely, and I can say change is possible. Patricia Johnson proved it's never too late to become a better person." The video went viral again, but this time with positive comments. Many were inspired by the story and began reflecting on their own prejudices. In the following months, Opulence became a case study in diversity and inclusion in retail. Patricia was invited to speak at events on women's entrepreneurship and social responsibility. "I never imagined my biggest mistake would become my greatest lesson," she said during one talk. Jasmine continued consulting for the store, helping implement increasingly effective inclusion policies. Her friendship with Patricia grew stronger, rooted in mutual respect and admiration for each other's personal growth. Catherine began visiting the United States more often, proud of her mother's transformation. During one of her visits, she made an important observation. "Mom, do you know what the most significant change I've noticed is?" "What?" "You smile for real now. Before, your smile was just to impress. Now it's genuine." Patricia looked at herself in the mirror and realized Catherine was right. She had regained not only her humanity, but also her joy for life. "You know what else?" Catherine continued. "I'd like to work with you." "Really?" "I want to come back to the United States and help expand this inclusion project. Transform other companies the way you transformed yours." Patricia could hardly believe it. Her daughter had not only forgiven her, but wanted to be her partner in a greater mission. "It would be a dream come true," Patricia said, hugging her daughter. Richard was also radiant with the changes in his wife. He had become an active advocate for the store's inclusion policies and helped implement the same practices in his other businesses. "Remember when we first met?" he asked during a romantic dinner. "Of course, why?" "You were a young woman full of dreams and kindness. I fell in love with that Patricia, and now she's back." "She never really left," Patricia said. "She was just hidden behind fear." "And now?" "Now she's free." A year after the incident that changed her life, Patricia organized a special event, the first anniversary of the new Opulence boutique. This time, the event was even bigger. Patricia had become a reference in personal and business transformation, and many people wanted to hear her story up close. Jasmine was there, now as a minority partner in the store. She had decided to invest in the business as a way to support the inclusion mission. "Who would have thought I'd one day be a partner in the store where I was humiliated?" she joked with Patricia. "Who would have thought I'd be partners with the wisest person I've ever met?" Patricia replied. During the event, Patricia made sure to honor Margaret, sharing her story and how she had been pivotal in her transformation. "This store only exists today because a simple, wise woman named Margaret believed in a frightened young woman who came from the countryside," she said, moved. "And because her granddaughter, Jasmine, had the generosity to teach me that it's never too late to become human again." The audience was moved by the story. Many approached her afterward to share their own experiences with prejudice and transformation. A young black woman came up to Patricia and said, "Thank you for showing that people can change. My mother works at a company where she faces discrimination, but now she has hope things can get better." "Tell your mother never to stop fighting for respect," Patricia replied, "and that there are people willing to change. You just have to show them the way." At the end of the event, Patricia was tidying up when she found a letter someone had left on the counter. "Dear Patricia, I'm Margaret Washington's great-granddaughter. My name is Zoe, and I'm 12. My great-grandmother died when I was little, but my mom always told stories about her. When I heard your story with my Aunt Jasmine, I was so happy. Grandma Margaret always said kindness is like a seed. It takes time to grow, but once it does, it bears fruit forever. Thank you for planting that seed. One day I'd love to meet you in person. Zoe Washington, Patricia cried as she read the letter. It felt as if Margaret were there, smiling and approving her transformation. She carefully placed the letter in a special drawer, alongside the photo Jasmine had shown her on the first day they met. That night, Patricia was at home reflecting on everything that had happened over the past year. Richard came over and sat beside her. "What are you thinking about?" "How one terrible act turned into the best thing that ever happened to me." "Do you regret anything in this process?" Patricia Johnson thought for a moment. "I regret taking so long to change. How many people I hurt before I learned, but I don't regret going through it because it made me a better person." "And now, what are your plans?" "To keep growing, to keep learning, and to keep honoring Margaret's memory by being the person she always believed I could be." They fell silent, gazing at the city view through the window. "Richard?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up on me. I would never give up. I was just waiting for you to remember who you really are." "And who am I?" "You're the woman I fell in love with. Generous, resilient, and full of love to give." Patricia smiled and nestled into her husband's embrace. For the first time in many years, she felt whole. 2 years later, the boutique opulence had become a national model for inclusive retail. Patricia received visits from business owners across the country, eager to learn from her experience. Catherine had returned permanently to the United States and founded a consulting firm specializing in business transformation and diversity. Together, mother and daughter had helped over 50 companies implement inclusive policies. Jasmine Washington continued her medical career, but had also become a respected speaker on forgiveness and personal growth. Her friendship with Patricia was a living example of how bridges could be built where walls once stood. The store had a new tradition. Every Friday, Patricia set aside 2 hours to offer free advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, regardless of background or financial status. "Why do you do this?" a young businesswoman asked during one session. "Because someone believed in me when I needed it," Patricia replied. "Now it's my turn to believe in others." One Friday, an elderly woman walked into the store. Patricia recognized her immediately. It was Eleanor, her former neighbor from the countryside. "Eleanor!" Patricia exclaimed, rushing to hug her. "Patricia, my dear, how are you?" "I'm well, very well, but tell me, what brings you to New York City?" "I came to visit my daughter, and she brought me to see your famous store. She said you've even been featured in magazines." Patricia laughed. It was true her story had been told in several publications, but to her, the real impact on people's lives mattered most. "Would you like a tour?" "Of course. I've always been curious to see what the seamstress's daughter built." Patricia showed Eleanor every corner of the boutique, sharing the stories behind each change. "You know what impresses me most," Eleanor said. "What?" "You haven't forgotten where you came from. Your mother would be proud." "I hope so," Patricia replied, moved. "I'm sure. She always knew you'd go far. She just didn't know you'd bring so many people with you." Those words touched Patricia deeply. That was exactly what she wanted, not just to succeed, but to help others do the same. At the end of the visit, Eleanor made a special request. "Could you sell me a scarf? I've always wanted a silk one like the ladies used to wear." Patricia personally selected the most beautiful scarf in the store and wrapped it with care. "How much is it?" Eleanor asked. "For you, it's free. A gift from a daughter to a second mother." "Patricia, please accept it. It would be an honor." Eleanor took the gift with tears in her eyes. "Did you know your mother told me about your dreams when you were little?" "What dreams?" "She said you wanted a store where everyone felt special. I think you've done it." Patricia hugged Eleanor, feeling she had come full circle. 3 years after the incident that changed everything, Patricia received an unexpected call. "Mrs. Johnson, this is Zoe Washington." Patricia recognized the name immediately. It was Margaret's great-granddaughter who had written the letter. "Zoe, what a wonderful surprise." "Mom, I'm 15 now and I'm doing a school project on inspiring people. I'd love to interview you." "It would be an honor. When would you like to come?" "Could I stop by tomorrow after school?" "Of course, I'll be waiting." The next day, Zoe arrived at the shop accompanied by her mother, Serena, Jasmine's daughter. Patricia was moved when she saw the young girl. She had features that reminded her of Margaret, especially the gentle smile and bright eyes. "Thank you for having me," Zoe said, holding a recorder. "The pleasure is mine. What would you like to know?" Zoe asked mature, insightful questions about Patricia's journey of transformation. She wanted to understand not just what had happened, but how Patricia had truly changed. "What was the hardest part of changing?" she asked. "Admitting I was wrong," Patricia replied. "It's very hard to look in the mirror and realize you've become someone you shouldn't be." "And what was the easiest part?" "Nothing was easy," Patricia laughed. "But what gave me strength was remembering your great-grandmother's kindness. She taught me that everyone deserves respect. My mom always says Grandma Margaret had a special gift for seeing the best in people. She really did, and that gift saved my life, even if I only realized it years later." At the end of the interview, Zoe asked a question that surprised Patricia. "Would you be mad if I said I want to be like you when I grow up?" "How so?" "I want to help people change, like you did. I want to show that it's possible to be better." Patricia's heart swelled with joy. "Zoe, that would be the greatest honor of my life. So, could I come here during break to learn from you?" "You can come anytime you want. You'll always be welcome." Serena, who had listened quietly the whole time, stepped closer to Patricia. "Thank you for being an example to my daughter," she said. "It's rare to find people who admit their mistakes and work to make things right. Thank you for letting her visit. She reminds me so much of her grandmother." "That's what everyone says. She has the same generous heart." When Zoe and Serena left, Patricia thought about how life was full of circles. Margaret's kindness had returned to her through Jasmine, and now it would continue through Zoe. That evening, as Patricia was tidying up the day's papers, she found a drawing Zoe had left for her. It was a simple but touching illustration, two hands reaching for each other with the words, "It's never too late to start over," written underneath. Patricia placed the drawing in the same drawer where she kept Margaret's photo and Zoe's letter. It was her treasure box, the place where she kept the memories that reminded her of who she truly was. When she got home, Richard was watching the news. "How was your day?" he asked. "Perfect," Patricia said, sitting beside him. "I met a young girl who reminded me why change is worth it. And what's the reason? So the next generation can grow up in a better world, so they don't have to make the same mistakes we did. Do you really think that's possible?" "I think it's our duty to try." Richard smiled and kissed her forehead. "I love you, Patricia, the Patricia you are now. And I love you for having patience with me on my journey. It wasn't patience, it was faith. Faith that you'd find the road back home. And did I? More than that, you built a new home, better than the one before." Patricia looked around the living room, but she knew Richard wasn't just talking about the physical space. She had built a new life, rooted in what truly mattered. 5 years after the day that changed her life, Patricia was preparing a special event, the launch of a book telling her story. The book, titled The Road Back Home, had been written in collaboration with Jasmine and Catherine. It was a reflection on prejudice, forgiveness, and personal transformation. "Are you nervous?" asked Catherine, who had come all the way from London for the launch. "A little," admitted Patricia. "It's strange to expose your life like this. But think of how many people will be inspired by your story." "I hope so. I hope someone reads it and realizes it's always possible to change." The launch event was held at her own boutique, which had become a cultural space as well as a commercial one. Many notable figures were present, including other businesswomen who had implemented changes inspired by Patricia's story. Jasmine introduced Patricia to the audience. "I met Patricia during one of the worst moments of her life, but also the moment that would become her best, because it was when she decided to stop running from herself and start finding herself." Patricia stepped onto the small stage set up in the store and looked at the diverse crowd waiting for her. There were people of all ages, colors, and social backgrounds. "When I started writing this book," she said, "I thought I was telling the story of how a prejudiced businesswoman became a better person. But along the way, I realized I was telling the story of how all of us can find our way back home." "What home?" someone in the audience asked. "The home we carry inside us," the place where our humanity lives. We often lose our way, but it's always there, waiting for us to have the courage to return. During the signing session, many people shared their own stories of transformation. An elderly woman approached and said, "I read your book before the launch and decided to forgive my sister after 15 years of fighting. Thank you for reminding me that forgiveness frees the one who forgives." A young entrepreneur commented, "I completely changed my company's hiring policies after reading your story. Now we have the most diverse team in our field." A shy teenager came up at the end. "I get bullied at school because of my background. Your book gave me the strength not to give up on my dreams." Each story moved Patricia deeply. She realized her journey had become bigger than herself. It was a symbol that change is possible. At the end of the event, Zoe, now 18 and about to start studying psychology, approached with the book in hand. "Can I ask for a special dedication?" she asked. "Of course. What would you like me to write?" "Something that reminds me to continue Grandma Margaret's work." Patricia thought for a moment and wrote, "To Zoe, who carries in her heart the kindness of her great-grandmother and the courage to build a better world. Keep planting seeds of love wherever you go. With affection, Patricia." Zoe read the dedication and smiled. "Thank you for teaching me that mistakes don't define who we are, but what we do after them. And thank you for reminding me every day why it's worth being a better person." When everyone had left, Patricia stayed behind in the store tidying up. Jasmine came over to help. "How do you feel?" asked Jasmine. "Grateful," Patricia replied. "Grateful I made such public mistakes that I had no choice but to change." "You didn't change because you were forced. You changed because you chose to. Do you think our friendship would have happened if I'd been kind to you from the start?" Jasmine thought for a moment. "Maybe not. Maybe we needed to go through all of this to become the people we are today. Then maybe even our mistakes have a purpose." "Maybe. But what matters isn't the mistake. It's what we do after it." Patricia looked around the store and saw not just a commercial space, but a symbol of transformation. Every shelf, every mirror, every corner told the story of a journey back home. "Jasmine?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on yourself." They hugged, two women who had found in adversity the path to a true friendship. The end of the story. And now, dear listener, tell us, what did you think of this journey of transformation? Do you believe it's possible to truly change, as Patricia did? Have you ever been in a similar situation, whether giving or receiving a second chance? Leave your honest comment sharing your thoughts. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories we have prepared for you.